what happens after you get the job. So we're going to look at professional development when you first get your job, kind of settling into it, just some tips. So this will be really quick, and then after that we can open it up to questions, and if there are none, you can go about the rest of your evening. So for professional development, I'm going to start with negotiating the offer, because we talked all the way up to interviewing and action planning, how to go out and apply for jobs, but we haven't talked about what happens when they give you the offer. So after you've had your interview successful and they're ready to start talking about maybe bringing you on, what happens next? So we'll start there. Then we'll talk about your first day when you get hired. Then we'll talk about the first 90 days, which is a typical probation period. So if that's something in your negotiations, 90 days is typical for them deciding. Usually what that means is the first 90 days, if you're on probation, it means that they could let you go for any reason. They could just decide you're not a good fit, or whatever, any reason. So make sure that when you are accepting an offer, that you're looking at, usually they're going to give you an agreement. Even if you're an employee, there's some sort of something you're looking at that says, here are the terms that we're hiring you on. This is career planning, not in the sense that we've been talking about creating your action plan for job searching. This is career planning so that you keep moving forward and looking forward. It can tie into the same spreadsheet, but you don't want to do like I did and work a job for 8 years and then turn around and say, what am I doing here? I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, and I haven't looked for any other options or kept learning new things so that I can move on to something else. Is the probationary period also a chance for the hiree to decide if the job is not the right fit? Not usually. So that's a great question. But yeah, it's not usually like a two-way thing. So the 90-day period is usually when the company is still, they know they're training you. You have a little bit more leeway for errors. But it's not really a place for you to say, now you could. I mean, I think it'd be better if you decided it wasn't a good fit, the sooner the better. But that's not typically what's expected of that. We're going to talk a little about email etiquette, because that's something nobody talks about. And there's a lot that you can do to be successful in just having good communication with people. We'll talk about a few other success tools. And like I said, we'll open it to Q&A. So we're going to talk about how to excel after getting the job. We want you to continue leveraging your strengths. So when you get hired and they're giving you your pile of stuff to do, try to keep bringing you into it. Try to keep bringing in the stuff that you are interested in. Ask for opportunities to do those things if you can. You need to be reliable and resourceful. Like when you're in those first 90 days, if you don't know the answer to something, Google and ask your mentor and try to make sure that you're figuring that out. I'm sure Jesse and Max are here to answer questions that you have, or any of the professors, instructors that you've had so far. And be reliable. Make sure that you are on meetings on time, because again, you're in that 90-day period where they can just say, nope, not fitting our expectations. You do also want to make friends when you first get in the door. So, be yourself, but also do your best to kind of see how things are going. There are, any business is like anywhere else. There's cliques, there's people who expect different things. You're going to be working with engineers and people who might like to keep to themselves, who just kind of feel people out. Giving and getting feedback. You need to be open and receptive to that. If you start feeling somebody gives you feedback and you feel defensive, your best reaction is to just hold on to that. See if they don't give you more information, ask questions around it. Don't take it personally. If someone's giving your feedback, they're likely trying to help you. So those are my initial tips. So when you first get the offer, congratulations. Like we've already talked about, don't talk about numbers in the interview if you can avoid it. And then once you get the actual offer, you have the opportunity at that point to make a counteroffer. So this is going to happen in a couple of different ways. Obviously, it's not always the same. They might email you, they might call you. So they might call you on the spot, but normally it's acceptable to say, so anytime you're in a position where you could accept the offer, don't feel like you have to do it in that moment. So they're not going to go and say, okay, if you didn't accept it right now, we're going to give it to someone else. You usually have 3 days to a week to say, can I chew on this for a minute? So they're probably going to appreciate if it's close to a Friday, you can say, can I get back to you on Monday or Tuesday? If it is Monday or Tuesday, then you say, can I get back to you by Friday? So give them yourself a couple of days, and then you can go back and think about the offer, think about how you would like to counter offer. So again, try not to do that right in the moment. It's perfectly normal to say, oh my God, I'm so excited. But do you mind if I go talk to my spouse, go talk to my whoever you need to talk to, whether you do or not? You might be jumping out of your skin excited for the job, but you want to be able to put yourself in the position to negotiate. So try to contain your excitement if it's there. Obviously, express your gratitude, but you'll be able to take it back and research what's expected for your region, what's expected offer. Think about what else you can negotiate. So Latonia told me about a position that she's talking about, and there's parking involved, but currently it's remote. So parking doesn't, like, that's kind of an empty gesture at this point. Still great. But if you have those couple of days to think about it, you can think about other ways you could work that. Like, cool, I'll take the parking when we're back in person, but for now I'd like this other perk, or whatever you want to do. This is your chance to ask for what you want, because you can ask for too much and they're just going to say no. But they might say yes, or you might ask for 3 things and they'll give you one of those things. So this is the time for you to sit around and consider what do you actually need to make, what's fair. A lot of companies will start low because they can, and because a lot of people, especially women and minorities, will just accept it. So you want to make sure that you're doing your own self a favor and at least trying. Now on the flip side of that, they may legitimately have a budget they have to stick to. Often if it's government, often if it's a granted, so if it's a nonprofit and their projects are paid by grants, like here at Careers and Code, they may not be able, and I'm not saying they can or can't, but they may not have any wiggle room. But they usually can still negotiate on a couple of other things: 6 days, time off, flexible schedules, things like that. So here are some other things you can negotiate on: time, flexibility, alternative benefits. So that's things like Aflac, if you know the duck, Aflac. That's not regular health insurance, but it's a different option for emergency health care. Sign-on bonuses. So you may be able to ask for, in some, or you can just ask if they have this. Some places will offer a sign-on bonus. So if you start, if you promise to stay, so back to that 90-day trial period, if you promise to stay for a year or even 2 years, they might, I don't know if that's the sign-on bonus. Like, some companies will do a sign-on bonus, I think, where you get paid today. Other companies might do where if you stay a certain amount of time, you'll get a bonus for staying. I don't know what that's called. Stay-on bonus, maybe. So there's some other things that you can negotiate around if the salary won't budge. And you want to have that planned out. So you want to say, if they offered you $25 an hour and you feel like 27 is more appropriate. And a lot of places will not even think twice about a 10% increase. So if you want to play it safe and you just want to go up a little bit, you can try to do something in a 10% range. Because if they do have wiggle room, sometimes it's not even worth them trying to go back and negotiate over that. They might just do it. I think I was going to say something else, but I forgot it. And then schedule your first day. So your first day, they might give you 2 weeks to take your time, or they might be like, we need you on whatever day. So you want to do that after you accept the offer too. And then on your first day, they should be onboarding you. Your first day should not be about work. I would question if you started a job and they were like, here's your computer, go do something. You should be there on your first day to meet people, learn stuff. If you are working on something, maybe somebody's there to help you. But typically, your first day, you're going to be signing some papers. You got to get your benefits, if there are any, figured out. This is also another chance for you to ask a lot of questions. So you want to be bringing those questions that you have, thinking ahead, planning through that first day. And as things come up, ask them. It's better to ask them than to get through the day and then the next day find out you're on your own and you didn't ask the question. To that same point, take notes so that you can do what you need to do the following days. Learn those programs and softwares. It's the other thing they're going to be teaching you. They're going to be telling you what program or languages you need. They should be showing you existing code. And if they are hooking you up with a mentor, you should be meeting your mentor. So these are the kind of things that you're going to be expecting on your first day to go through this type of thing. And then talking about, and so this is a question you should ask if they have not brought this up. What is expected of me? How much work am I supposed to produce in a day? What am I, is there a metric tied to? So you should be knowing when your performance reviews are going to be. So if you get to that 90-day point and they're saying, well, and let's say you get to 90 days and they say, well, you're not really meeting expectations. If you don't know what those expectations are, then they've completely set you up to fail to that point. So if they haven't told you at the beginning, what am I going to be reviewed on? You should be asking that question. So during your first 90 days, there's a book out there called The First 90 Days. It's a little bit about management, but I think it's still very helpful for navigating the first 90 days in a new position. So you might want to consider that book. But in your first 90 days, if they're not going to give you feedback till 90 days, ask for that feedback. How am I doing? Not daily, but as you're going, maybe after you finish a milestone, a project or some specific thing. Carolyn, can you ask some of those questions in the interview or during the phone conversations? You can. So you had the opportunity during the interview, but when you're on the job, you want to be asking these questions again, because now you're with the people who you're actually working with, your real boss. In the interview, you may not have been. Be positive. Try to maintain, even if you're going to be frustrated some days, you're going to probably work with a few people you don't like. Keep a good attitude, keep working through it. Learn as much as you can. Get to know your coworkers. It's always great advice to learn people's names. Try to learn about them. Make yourself valuable. So if you are showing up with a strength or a skill that you know that you have that maybe they don't have, like for example, when I worked in the Environmental Protection Commission and I brought in my database skills, I was volunteering to do improvements to things that had reports and data involved. And so by the time my year was up with them, I had now created work that they couldn't do without me. So make sure that you're not just there to, some people will get in the mindset, this happens a lot in government, that, this is my job. If you ask me to do something outside of my job, I'm not going to do it because you're not paying me for that. But when you were in the first 90 days, anything and everything's your job so that you can make yourself valuable. Plus you'll be learning new things. So volunteer for stuff. Problem solve. If you see something, so this is my first career. When I was 20 years old, I saw that our sales team at this global telemarketing company was having their sales leads go to all over the place. So I might call and make a sale. Top sales guy would make $1 million call the next day, and a newbie would call that company the next day and try to make a sale. Those customers were mad. So I fixed that problem. And 2 years later, I moved to Ireland. I had been promoted, and I made myself very valuable that way. So keep an eye out for things that you might be able to solve, even if they aren't on your, now don't step over someone else whose job it is, but if no one else is doing it, you can offer to help. You can offer to fix a problem that might be able to use your skills for. And as I said, just try to get to know people. And if you can also become the expert at something that they use or that they're doing, that's another way to make yourself valuable. So let's talk again about your career goals and keeping track on them. So that career plan that you created, you might want to pull that out every once in a while. You might want to have a different career plan or just a journal or something that you're keeping track of, making sure that the work that you're doing is helping you get where you want to go. So like Brandy wants to make sure writing is involved. Don't get 6 months, a year into the job and you haven't written anything for 12 months. Make sure that you are incorporating those things into. And sometimes people will do, their job will become what they do during work, but on the weekends they'll take care of that's how they balance things. And that's fine too. But you want to make sure that you are incorporating those things and staying happy and healthy. So that's what's working, aligning your work situation to your long-term goals. Just make sure that you aren't just focused on getting that paycheck and forget to keep learning or networking and making new connections and learning new things. Keep learning. I'm always one step ahead of myself. Build your network. When you already have connections here through bootcamp and through Syracuse.io and the Women Who Code and stuff like that. So, keep going to those things. They'll help you to be a better team player. If you get to a point with your team and you guys need to problem solve something and someone on your team doesn't have a skill, but you have a good network, you've just made yourself valuable because you can go find someone else who might be able to help you to do that. I've done that too in my career where I had to do some programming after I had advanced at the government position, and there were some like advanced processes I wanted to do, but I had some very nerdy friends who worked for the university, and so I would just call them up. They would stop by the office, they'd help me with the code, and they'd go back to work. But I got it done, so it was on me. So having a network is very helpful when you need to get something done you don't have the skills to do. So we'll talk about email for just a little bit. And this is just because some of you may not have ever been in a professional setting. Some of you may have been a while ago. And this is one of the things that I think can erode relationships at work really fast, is not having sort of written or email intelligence, essentially. So very first thing, so I'm just going to use this as a sort of a guideline, but have a salutation. You always say hi or good morning and the person's name. When you start an email off without a person's name, it immediately feels impersonal. So that's a great place to start. And then on the flip side, always use a sign off, even if it's always exactly the same. It's actually very easy to just use the same one. If you use best regards, have a great day, whatever that is, just as long as it's there. So those two things kind of anchor the message and say, I'm giving you enough respect to say hello to you before I start talking, and I'm telling you to have a nice day or wish you, and then the well wishes at the end. So no matter what content is in the middle, at least you have that mutual respect going there in the start and the end. Keep your tone positive. If you have it, I always have this rule for myself. If I have something that takes longer than the screen view to write, it's better off in a phone call. And if I have something that I wouldn't want someone else to read, it doesn't go in the email, because emails can be too easily passed around and screenshotted. So, and if you're talking about somebody else, make sure that they would be okay with seeing that email. So if you say, oh, hey, I'm working on this project and Dominique said it was okay if I did X, Y, and Z, you better make sure Dominique would be okay with seeing what you just said about that. Because if she didn't say it, or that's not exactly what she said, you shouldn't be saying it at all. And again, with staying positive, if it's something you wouldn't want someone to read later, or if someone's going to read it wrong, you're better off picking up the phone. Try not to make excuses in your email. So this is another thing people do all the time. Oh, sorry that this is late. I was doing X, Y, and Z. The reason that it's late doesn't matter much to the person. So occasionally you can do this, but don't get in the habit of saying like, sorry, this is late. I was doing this other thing. Sorry. All that says to the other person is that they weren't the priority. So if you find yourself always making excuses, then you might have an issue with being reliable or getting your calendar together or whatever that is. So try to keep excuses out of email too. When you're having a conversation, if someone asks you 3 questions, reply to 3 questions. So a lot of times when you're trying to get something done, instead of sending separate emails with separate subjects, you try to tackle a lot of stuff. So you may be doing that with yours. You might have a question about front end, a question about a database, a question about a customer. And if you on your end, make those 3 questions very clear that there are 3 different questions, which you can do by numbering, putting space between them. And then if you're replying to something like that, make sure, because otherwise a lot of people will reply really fast and they only answer one thing, which leaves the other person going, well, great, I still don't have the information I need. They have to send you another email. So it makes you a better team player if you're, just efficient at writing your emails. So some of these things that are, and like I said, if it's too long, just have a call instead. If you don't hear back after your emails, just follow up either with it's an email or a call. And then so some of these basics here from Gmail, I love a descriptive subject line, because if I need to search for this email later, I want to know what the name of the project is. I might want to know if it's a problem with something, what the problem is, or if it's the language, like try to think of the words that you would need to find this email later. It doesn't always have to be like that, but I try to be very to the point and descriptive in my subject line, especially to help person know if they should read this now or if they need to read it later, or if they can read it later. I guess forwarding your confidentiality, really, if you're sending something that should be confidential, obviously think twice about that. If you are sending to multiple recipients, make sure you use the blind copy, the BCC. So that's not always shown. You have to open that up. But so if you send an email to 6 different people who aren't related, so if you're sending to 5 people who are on your project team and all 5 people need to see it, they can go in the CC. But if you're sending, like we're sending out surveys for careers and codes to the interviewers, those interviewers don't need to see each other's names. So that goes into the blind copy. It looks like they're getting it straight to them. They don't know who else it's been sent to. And then when they reply, it's just from them. If you get a email with multiple people, then it gets trickier because you have to decide, am I replying to all or am I replying to just this one person? Hopefully your company has some of their own, because that's kind of a cultural thing. Some people expect you to reply to all, some people expect you not to, because if it happens a lot, then a lot of people are getting CC'd on stuff that they don't care about. So just something to think about. Your files, if they're big, put them in shared drives, stuff like that. And these are just some other things on using Gmail. You can do automated signatures. You can do vacation responders. Yeah. So that is pretty much all I need to know about emails. And then some other tools for success. So if you want to look up more or read more, or the things that really help people succeed on the job, or just persevering. You're going to have good weeks, bad weeks. There's no such thing as a job that is always 100% the best thing ever. I work for myself. I love what I do, but some weeks are still very hard. Be out there with the growth mindset. People are doing their own thing. And I love this quote that, other people are just doing the best they can. So when you meet another person who doesn't have a growth mindset or who doesn't seem to see the big picture, they're doing the best they can for them. And your best may be way better. But don't let those people get in your way. An abundance mindset. There's enough work. There's enough celebration. There's enough kudos to go around for everyone. So someone else's win doesn't take away from your win. I've told you about the 4 agreements many times. I think that is the best thing for anyone working with other people. 3 R's is what I say to people when I'm career coaching and teaching professional development to young persons. Be resourceful. So it's very challenging to be around someone who's always like, where is that? How do I find that? How do I do that? Get out there and figure it out. At least try first before you've gone to someone else and say, how do I do this? Where can I find it? So when you start the job and you're not quite sure where files are or where something is, give it a try first, see if you can do it. And then ask somebody. I tried to figure this out, but I cannot remember where this thing is. Again, be reliable. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Show up on time and be responsive. I'm working right now on a project with someone who has terrible communication skills, and it's so frustrating. They're really good at their job, but would I work with this person again? I'm kind of not sure. So you don't want anybody to be asking that question about you. And again, in that first 6 months, year of your job, say yes to everything. Once you get good, once you prove yourself, people know that you're the go-to for something, you can start saying, no, I think I'm doing enough. But when you're first there, that's not the right attitude to have. It'll pay off later. So I'm just going to pop my contact info out there for the recording, and I will stop now.